All right, so today we're diving deep into UK politics, and we've got our hands on a speech that really captures the uh, the mood over there.
Yeah, things are a little spicy in the UK right now, especially considering it's only been about 100 days since the new government came in.
Right, just 100 days, and already let's just say not everyone's thrilled.
Yeah, and that's putting it mildly. I mean, when over half of Britons, actually 52%, which is a lot, when that many people are already calling the government very bad. Well, that's not exactly a glowing endorsement.
No, it's definitely not. And this speech we're looking at, it really taps into that frustration, that kind of undercurrent of discontent. The speaker doesn't hold back, especially when it comes to Prime Minister Starmer.
It's interesting you say that. One thing that really jumps out from this speech is how much the speaker seems to zero in on Starmer's authenticity, or I guess his perceived lack of it. They're really bothered by this idea that he's not, really connecting with everyday people and that he's dodging the tough questions.
Exactly. It's like they're saying, stop with the political maneuvering, just be real with us.
Right. And it makes you think about how much of this authenticity thing is really about a leader's policies versus how relatable they seem. Are we talking about actual governance or just, how charismatic a leader appears to be?
And what's interesting? It's like all this frustration with Starmer, it kind of leads the speaker to this, pretty radical idea.
Oh, yeah.
They're talking about term limits for politicians.
Whoa, okay. Everyone.
Yeah, 2 terms, max, and you're out of there. That's it.
Huh. So basically, shake things up completely. Yeah. I could see how that ties into the whole frustration thing. Get some new blood in there, maybe. Prevent people from getting too comfy in those powerful positions, right?
Exactly. That's exactly what they're saying. It's like by limiting everyone to just 2 terms, you automatically prevent those super long political careers and keep things, a bit more honest, maybe. I don't know. It's a pretty bold idea.
It is. I mean, it definitely addresses that whole power dynamic, right? Less chance for, dynasties to form or for certain figures to just dominate the political scene for decades.
Yeah, and the speaker even argues that term limits would force leaders to actually deliver on their promises because if they only have a limited time in office, they've got to make it count, right?
It makes sense. It's like you can't just coast on your past achievements or your party's reputation when you've got an expiration date. You've got to actually get stuff done if you want to leave a legacy. Of course, it's not quite that simple, is it?
Right. I mean, there are always 2 sides to every coin.
Exactly. And, the counter argument is that sometimes having those really experienced leaders, even if they've been around for a while sometimes, their experience is actually invaluable, especially in tricky situations,
Yeah, I get that. So it's like, are we prioritizing fresh perspectives and preventing stagnation? Or are we potentially losing crucial expertise and stability by kicking experienced people out?
That's exactly the dilemma. It's a balancing act, for sure. And there are no easy answers, which is, I think, what makes this whole debate so fascinating. Take the U.S. presidency, for example. They've got the 2-term limit, right? And that came about after Franklin D. Roosevelt was elected 4 times.
Wow, 4?
Yeah, 4 terms. Unprecedented. And so the 2-term limit was kind of reaction to that. And it does make sense on one hand, to prevent any one person from, holding on to that much power for too long.
Yeah, that makes sense. But on the other hand, like you were saying, you've got that potential downside of losing out on experience, right? What if someone's doing a great job and they're really hitting their stride in their 2nd term, but then boom, they're out because of the term limit?
Exactly. It's what if they've built up all these important relationships with other world leaders or gained a deep understanding of complex issues? Losing that momentum can be a real concern, for sure.
It's fascinating. It's this whole other layer of strategy and long-term thinking gets added to the political game.
Absolutely. And I think in this speech, in particular, what makes it so compelling is that the speaker is directly connecting this term limit argument to their whole stance on Starmer.
Right. They're not just talking about term limits in this abstract theoretical sense. They're using it as a lens through which to critique his leadership.
Yeah.
It's they're saying, look, this guy's not cutting it, and the very system that allows him to stay in power for so long is part of the problem.
Yeah, and it's a pretty bold move, honestly, to directly question the legitimacy of a sitting prime minister. It's not just about policy disagreements anymore. It's about something more fundamental.
It's they're calling him out, basically, saying you shouldn't even be in charge. And then they take it even further by challenging everyone listening to, really think about what leadership actually means to them. It's almost like they want people to be more engaged, more critical,
Yeah.
you know? Don't just accept things the way they are.
Yeah, like really think about what you value in a leader. And that's something that goes way beyond just, UK politics. That's something we all deal with, right? Figuring out what good leadership looks like, who we trust, who we think is actually going to get things done.
Absolutely. And it's so easy to get caught up in the day-to-day political battles, the back and forth, the scandals, all of that. But this speech, it's like it forces you to zoom out, to think about the bigger picture. What do we as citizens really want? And then how do we actually make those things happen? How do we hold our leaders accountable?
I think that's a really important point. And, one thing that's interesting about this speech is that, yeah, it's definitely critical of the current UK government, very much so. But it doesn't necessarily lay out any kind of like step-by-step plan, Besides this whole term limit idea, it's more about like starting a conversation, I guess.
Right, like getting people to think critically about leadership in general, not just do I like this person or not, but what are the qualities of a good leader, period. And how does that actually play out in the real world?
Exactly. And for anyone listening who, really wants to understand the deeper currents of UK politics, I think this speech gives us a really fascinating glimpse into the frustrations that some people are feeling. But even more than that, I think it pushes us beyond just agreeing or disagreeing with this one speaker. It's like it invites us all to examine our own beliefs about leadership and how those beliefs might be different or similar to folks in different countries, different political systems. It's a lot to unpack.
That's the beauty of a good deep dive, isn't it? You come away with more questions than you started with and a whole lot to think about. So whether this speech resonated with you or maybe you completely disagree with it, either way, hopefully, it's got you thinking about what leadership means to you and how we can all work towards, hopefully, a better future no matter where we are in the world.